A quick look at the clock, and we see that it is 19:30. We're back again for Small Business Connect Radio. Good evening to you, and welcome once again. And we're looking forward to your company for the next hour. My name is Herman, your host. We trying to connect with Nziki, the other beautiful co-host. I'm the guy, so yeah. I'll leave it right there. So you're welcome, as I said, myself, Nziki, Brian, as well as Kobani, and the two regular suspects of the show, the boss man, Christoph, as well as Nabila, the boss lady. I call them that because they are involved with the newspaper. Well, I might as well put Kobani in there, the third boss guy. They're involved with the newspaper on a daily basis. That's Small Business Connect newspaper, and we're looking forward to your company once again. Don't forget that this is live as it happens, so should you have any connection problems, quickly run along to our Facebook page. The guys in Cape Town will be updating it as we go along. Why am I saying the guys in Cape Town? Well, I'm in PE, Port Elizabeth, Epai, and Nziki is in Joburg, Johannesburg, and the rest of the gang, Christoph, Nabila, Kobani, and our social media expert Brian Mosley, they're all in Cape Town. That's the beauty of online broadcasting, online digital space. You're able to put together wonderful stuff for people that are interested in getting involved. And this, of course, it's all about entrepreneurship. We have content that we hope you will learn, because the basis of the show, as I like to call it, is ICE: inform, connect, empower you with the content that we have on the show. As I like to do it, George Soros, his net worth is $20 billion. He multiplied by 10, that's 200 billion rands. His quote says, "I'm only rich because I know when I'm wrong. I basically have survived by recognizing my mistakes." And my mistake is tonight already talking too much. So I'm going to welcome the guys to the show to say hello quickly. Christoph, hi, good evening.
Hi, Owen. Great to be back today. I think we are getting better at doing this after the first time learning how this technology that we're using is working and sometimes not working. But sort of, I'm quite happy that we. It seems that when we interacted with listeners over their experience, that most of it was good. It seems to depend on the quality of your internet connection, and even amongst us people that are presenting, it seems to be the issue. Sort of, if the internet is good, we can speak and hear clearly. If the internet is a bit slow, we don't. But we can live with that for now. I'm very excited about using this platform in connecting with the small business community, so that we don't just publish a newspaper every month, but that we can have a conversation going, as we also do on our Facebook page. So yes, I'm very excited about what we're doing here, and looking forward to the hour together.
Awesome. Thank you very much there, Christoph. We're going to come back to you. Lots to talk about tonight. Right now, let me welcome Kobani. Kobani, good evening and welcome. First time on the show. Glad to have you.
Hi, evening, Aman and everybody. Yes, I'm glad to be here this evening, and also looking forward to the show.
Awesome. I'm not going to let you go off yet. While I have you on, can you just briefly give us your role with the newspaper? I mentioned earlier on you're involved with the newspaper on a daily basis, but give us a brief picture about who Kobani is.
Okay, Kobani is basically a guy who was born in the Free State some years ago. He grew up there, and then in the early teens went to a place called Umtata in the Transkei, former Transkei. Did his schooling there, junior in high school and also tertiary, and thought of coming to Cape Town since he befriended a guy who, was a Cape Townian. So in December '97, came to visit his friend and ended up staying in Cape Town since. So I've been working in Cape Town for the past, is it now, what, 16 years now? It is now since 1998. Well, I started with a newspaper called Big News. I don't know if many people remember that Big News. That was a newspaper that was aimed at SMMEs. That's where I met Christoph.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Sorry? That's where I met Christoph, and we worked together.
Yeah, carry on, I'm listening.
And then after working together, I decided that, man, I needed to learn more about the corporate environment, and joined Business Partners, which is a finance institution. Worked there for 4 years and got tired of giving people opportunities and at the same time having to close them down because, you know, they failed to run a business. So that actually gave me an idea of why then I don't work with owners of businesses so that they can improve their businesses and make them a success. So I decided to work as a business consultant, and then from working as a business consultant and meeting Christoph again, now the Small Business Connect came into the picture, and then now we're back again in full circle. You know, it was Big News then, now it's Small Business Connect now. So what I do at Small Business Connect, I manage the operations. So Nabila and Christoph deal with the content. I look now with the business side of the newspaper and the circulation as well.
Awesome. Kobani, thanks. We'll come back to you. Of course, tonight you're going to be giving us the finance tip for entrepreneurs to absorb and, you know, I think use in their on a daily basis. So
Okay.
I'll be coming back to you in just a little while. Joy, Pierre, Buntle, Qiniso, Sinhle, Dylan Ngwenya, and as well as Neil are some of the guests joining us tonight. Thank you very much for being with us. And right now, let's go to one of the two ladies on the show, Nabila. Good evening and welcome.
Hi, good evening, Herman. Good evening, everybody.
We're back again, second time around. You, the editor, I'm going to be chatting to you about what's in store in this month's issue, and we're also going to be talking about the experience that you had. I envy you. I'm actually pretty jealous. You got to meet the new minister.
Yes, I'll bring the latest on what's happening at the Department of Small Business Development shortly. But it wasn't actually the first time we met with the minister. So we've been in regular contact with the office and the minister. So we'll bring you the latest shortly, or I'll bring you the latest shortly. All
right, cool. Great stuff. And at this point, thank you very much, Nabila. I'll come back to you later as well. And our another expert on the show, also in Cape Town, his name is Brian Mosley. I met him in 2012. He was pitching his business, wind turbine business, and now he's an expert in social media. He's been around the block. So we thought, let's get him on the line. Good evening, Brian, and welcome to the show.
Good evening, Herman. Thank you for having me.
Awesome, man. So I think we're still trying to get into contact with our co-host in Johannesburg, Ntsikim Kize. I think let's just get into it. You're going to be our social media expert whenever we do the show. But first, let us hear from you, Brian. Who is Brian and your company that you founded, Inside Man Media? Can you tell us a bit about it?
Sure. Well, as you mentioned, I was involved in a renewable energy project as a startup a couple of years ago. And through a couple of competitions and exposure, I was afforded the opportunity of working with a business coach. And to cut a long story short, the time that I spent with him, it opened my eyes up to what was right in front of me, and that was the world of social media. I promptly set up a company in May of last year. Well, I left my corporate job in May of last year, and the company got set up towards the end of the year. The name of the company is Inside Man, and people often ask me where the name came from. It's quite simple, really. A few years ago, my dad told me he wanted to set up a website, and he was saying, I wish I had a man on the inside. And that obviously percolated over time, and last year I decided to set up Inside Man Media, which offers non-technical people an insight into, or an inside man on social media. Subsequently, I've been involved in a couple of very nice projects, Big Break Legacy and the likes. A couple of corporates have made use of my services. I'm doing quite well on Twitter, currently ranked 9th in Cape Town. I've got about 65,000 followers, which keeps me very busy, and obviously all the customers' accounts that I manage. So that's basically where I stand at the moment.
All right, cool. Thanks a lot for that, Brian, and we wish you all the best in your business, my man.
Thank you kindly.
Cool. Social media, it can be a beautiful, profitable, productive place, but it can also become a nightmare, an enemy if you're not treating it well. Am I leading you on into our tip for today? What have you got for us?
You led me on very nicely. What I can tell you is, I call it the mother rule. It's not the rule of all rules, it's just the mother rule. Basically what this means is, if your mother would not approve, it should not be posted on social media. I can elaborate a little bit. If you are angry, upset, or impaired, posting on social media is an immediate no-no. If, of course, you are not angry, upset, or impaired, just be mindful that there are consequences. Even though a tweet only lasts for a couple of seconds, the moment somebody retweets it, reposts something, or reshares something, you have lost control. And it could go viral, it could impact on your career, could impact on your countless things. Just be mindful that if your mother would not approve, don't put it on social media.
Is it your mother or your mother-in-law?
Hey, that's a completely different conversation.
All right, cool. So basically, be mindful of what you're posting. Now, you mentioned that when you tweet something and it gets retweeted, you reminded me of a case where I think it was a media company tweeted something about a very wealthy guy who they alleged he did something wrong, and it was retweeted. And so he ended up suing the retweeters as well, in addition to that media company. So being responsible is the name of the game, I take it.
Well, absolutely. If you consider yourself, depending on where you consider yourself, if you're a learner, be mindful that when you're trying to apply to a university, chances are they're going to look at your Facebook and look at your social media and see what it is you actually get up to. If you're applying for a job, again, people will Google you to find out who you really are. And if there's pictures of you doing things that do not fit into the culture of that particular company, you may have the best CV in the world. However, if you have done something and posted it on social media, it could really come back and hurt you. So if you are representing yourself or potentially a company that you work for, you have to be mindful that there are consequences. You're not just speaking to one person. You're speaking to potentially tens of thousands.
All right. Now, give me an example of a social media posting that's gone bad, either in a career where someone got fired or in a business case where they lost business or they lost clients.
This is an example that I think many people in South Africa will be aware of. There was a journalist, an international journalist, who tweeted as she was getting on the plane to come to South Africa. She tweeted, "I'm on my way to South Africa. I hope I don't get AIDS."
I remember that, right?
You remember, see, it stands out. But she lost her job, and she was actually a well-respected international journalist. So that on its own is another little where people and then post photographs of themselves on Facebook at the cricket. You know, little things like that. It might sound stupid, but people do it. And obviously there's implications where you could end up getting fired. And people have been fired.
Now, is it worth understanding copyright law in social media? Basically, what I'm trying to say is, if someone's just tweeted and you also, maybe this actually works better on Facebook, where you copy the status and then post it as if it's yours. Do you have to put a disclaimer, copied, or you can just let it fly and just carry on with it?
I would say the respectful thing to do is to claim the source that you got it from, but generally that is not the case. And so often you will see, and I am a culprit of this, often I will find a quality quote, but because the amount of space I have is limited, I may remove the person who quoted it. Could be Albert Einstein, Isaac Newton, or whomever. And sometimes that is then interpreted as being a quote that I put out there myself, because the person reading it is not aware that it belongs to someone else. So when it comes down to copyright, I think the only place you really need to be careful of this is when you start posting blogs and you don't the author. That gets a little bit hairy. But on Facebook and Twitter, because it's limited in terms of the amount of space, the other thing as well, it goes towards your credibility, because if somebody who is in the know knows that you did not write that, and in fact that you stole that but are not giving credit to the author, then obviously that is going to reflect badly on you.
Got it. In wrapping up there, Brian, basically, if your mother doesn't approve, don't put it out there, and also be aware of the consequences. Be responsible, basically.
Absolutely.
Brian Mosley, Inside Man Media founder and owner, thank you very much for your time. We'll catch up with you again next time we go live for another social media tip. Thank you very much. Have a good evening, man.
You too. Thank you for your time. Appreciate the platform.
All right. Thanks, Brian. Alrighty. So later on the show, we're going to be chatting to Nabila, where we're going to be looking at her interview with the new Minister of Small Business, as well as the article that was published in this month's issue, the red tape reduction, or should I just call it the red tape? So we're going to be chatting to Nabila about that. But right now, let me touch on Christoph in a little bit, just for a little bit actually. Christoph, interesting stuff that's been happening with the polls on Facebook.
Yeah, we've been busy asking for opinions and participation in getting to know what small businesses are saying about things like red tape, for instance, and other issues. In fact, we can perhaps think of running a poll right now on this platform, if you look to the right of the screen, you should be able to see that there are tabs that you can choose from in terms of chat and polls. And if you click on the polls, you'll see there's a question there: how can government best support small business? So if you are on the call now, it would be great if you can see which of those you believe is the best way that government can help small businesses to grow. So one is remove red tape, and I'm looking forward to what Nabila is going to tell us about in that regard. And when we ran a poll on our Facebook page, in fact, it came out that most small businesses believe, or most entrepreneurs believe, that red tape is one of the major issues keeping their growth back. But there are, of course, also other things that government can do. So what options that we do have there is to offer grants for growth and marketing. And in fact, the Department of Trade and Industry is doing that. part funding buying of manufacturing equipment, supporting entrepreneurs to go on trade missions and to exhibitions overseas and so on. And then the third one is the sponsorship of training, mentorship and coaching, which people can get access through SEDA, for instance. And the fourth, for making business loans more accessible. And that's, of course, a suggestion that we hear quite often. I personally do not believe that that's such a major issue. A lot of entrepreneurs think that that is the major issue, so it would be interesting to hear what people on the call today also believe. And then the last would be the ring fencing of tenders for small businesses. I mean, the question basically is if any of those would be the dominant factor that government could focus on to help small business to grow. Which one of those would it be? And if none of them are important for you, you can also vote other. So please go register your vote there, and maybe towards the end of the show we can come back and see what people believe government should be doing in terms of supporting small businesses.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Chris. You back again later. Some books that you've been reading, and am I correct? Tonight we're going to be talking to you about being a good leader, leadership, and the 1-minute manager.
Yes, I'll tell it. In fact, I reviewed the book in the newspaper, so you can get a copy of the newspaper for the full review, or wait until it goes onto the website. But it is about situational leadership. We have to be changing our leadership style based on the situation. So I'll tell a bit about what Ken Blanchard said in 1-minute manager, leadership styles that we can adopt.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. Now moving over to Nabila before we go to Kobani for our finance tip for today. Nabila, looking at the news, the newspaper, what's in this month's issue that we can just highlight for our listeners?
Hi, so we led with the story Retape to Ease Up, and this basically came from our interview with Minister Zulu, where a portfolio committee has been put together, and the first thing on the agenda basically was looking at legislation that was restricting Retape. That was on page 1, we would dealt with that. And then on page 2, or let's shift to page 2 for the minute, because page 1 led on to page 3, where
so, Nabila,
we expanded on.
Sorry, Nabila, sorry to interrupt you. Can I ask you to speak up a little bit?
Yeah. Is that better?
Yes, it is. Yes, thank you very much.
Is that much better? Okay. So page 1 led on to page 3, and we expanded on the interview with the minister. They said that the department should be up and running in the next 2 months. She said that she would be able to, or she's moving into a phase where she's able to pinpoint specifics. I also spoke to some of the chambers, and they were saying that they weren't expecting her to do anything immediately, and they would have been really had she started making changes just off the cuff. So they are being patient, but I don't think that they are also going to wait too long. I also and one of those questions was what was being done about institutions such as the CIPC and the Compensation Commission, because of the lack of support that small businesses were receiving from them. And she responded saying that was one of the things that she was looking at, the effectiveness of these institutions and how best to go forward. But she also said that she's learning on the job, so I think we just need to give her some time and see what the changes are that she is going to be making. That's on page 3. And then on page 6, we did an interesting story where we covered the story of two PE entrepreneurs, and they've developed a solar-powered Android tablet, which basically came about because of the lack of access to internet that people in rural areas have, and that's where that idea came about. And it seems to be quite successful based on the story. That's page 6 of our September edition. Christoph will be speaking about the book review that he's done on page 13. Yeah, and then we also have the page where we feature doing business with. We feature big business, and we feature the supplier development program. Yeah, that's all from my side for now.
All right, cool. So the newspaper gets published, just a reminder again for those who don't know, on the 1st of every month?
That's correct. On the 1st of every month, you can expect a new edition.
Okay, and I think I asked you this question last time, and I'll ask you again. If people want to be readers of the month, what's the procedure, or how can they do that?
All you need to do is just send us a brief email with your contact details. Send that email to newsdesk@smallbusinessconnect.co.za. I've actually posted that email address in the chat, so just scroll down the chat and you'll see that email address is in one of the messages I posted. Send us a picture of yourself, preferably in your business. A picture that's bigger than 1 megabyte, so that is good for print quality.
Cool. Well, guys, you heard. You want to be in the running to become reader of the month and get massive exposure for your business. Here's an opportunity. Christoph, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to. Nabila went very fast over the story of these two entrepreneurs from PE that developed a solar-powered tablet, which sounds kind of like amazing. I must say, I've never heard before of a solar-powered tablet. Nabila, can't you just tell us a bit more about what these guys are up to, and sort of how this come about and what their plans are? It sounds like really a fascinating story. In fact, we should have had them on the call.
I think we should actually get them, but the tablet is called the Moldbug Vuya tablet PC, and it's expected to retail around 1,500 rand, but it's only expected to be out by the end of this year. So I'm not sure that they want to divulge too much at the moment. They don't want to divulge too much at the moment. So I think once that hits the shelves, we can get them in and speak to them about the device. The one thing that they did mention was that they.
Yeah, sure, carry on.
Hello. The one thing that they mentioned was that they were up against so much rejection, but they just pushed through, and eventually they managed to have the product produced, or they managed to partner with somebody overseas. They initially planned to import tablets, but they went the harder route, and it seems to have worked out.
Green energy solutions from young entrepreneurs. That's very inspirational, and putting PE on the map. I just needed to add that in there, since that I'm also based in PE. Thank you very much there, Nabila. Chris, you satisfied with the response?
Yeah,
Once it's
thank
out
you very
in
much. I definitely we'll get these guys on. We'll when they're ready, of course.
Yeah.
I think this sounds like an amazing story of entrepreneurial spirit, persistence. Those kind of things that you need if you want to succeed in business. It's not only that bright idea that a lot of people maybe come up with, but it's also about the persistence and connecting with the right people. So it sounds to me like what Nabila was saying now is that they understood that, sort of you can't just give up with the first rejection, and you need to find the right people to work with. If your product is right, there's still a lot of other stuff that needs to be put into place to make it a success. But Herman, I was wondering, sort of there are a few questions here in the chat area. I've not been following all of them, but I see Pierre is talking about a program for the local market and getting funding for that in terms of SME support. So maybe we can just also keep an eye here on what people are saying. Dylan, he's an aspiring executive shuttle owner, sort of in the transport industry. Perhaps we can't answer all of these questions straight out here on the call, but there is space for posting questions to our Facebook page. We are, as far as we can, we answer questions. So Pierre and Dylan, if you want to message us on the Facebook page, you look for SASB Connect on Facebook. You'll find us and send us a message with those questions, and we can see how we can help you.
Awesome, thank you there, Chris. I don't want to put you, Kobani, or even Nabilia on the spot. I mean, things like what Pierre has just mentioned now, linkages. Is there maybe in the future an avenue that Small Business Connect might pursue?
I think when we started, I remember we did have a section where we tried to connect people with mentors, connect people in the same industry, and that was mainly, for opportunities as well. But that didn't work out well as anticipated, and it ended up, not going anywhere. But I don't see any harm in trying to bring it back, because for me, I think if people can, buy into it, it can be, important section of the newspaper.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that, Kuban. I think that's something that the powers that be, leave it up to you guys to ferment and work it out, and then obviously when the time is right, make the proper announcements. But yeah, I am of I'm one of the firm believers in linkages. That is why I love the word connect. And if it's all possible, I'll say why not. So yeah, I think as you click the mute button there, Kobani, let me bring you right back. We're about to get into your finance tip, and let me remind the guys again, we're on Facebook, Twitter, and the handle on Twitter is SASB Connect, and on Facebook is SASB Connect. Kobani, let me welcome you back. And last time you heard a family engagement, you couldn't be with us, but here you are. We're looking forward to hearing your finance tip tonight.
Okay. Yes.
Let me ask you a question.
Before going on, these guys forgot to tell you that I've made the front page for this month. I'm the one who's, if you look at the front page of the newspaper, I'm the one who's posing there with the minister, man. So I guess I'm famous this month.
Are you name dropping now? You met the minister.
So if you want to connect with the minister, I'm the man. No, I'm kidding.
What is your cell phone number? No, awesome. Let me ask you a question. I've got a business plan, I've got a business idea, and I need funding. Help me get into the mindset of potential funders, the financiers. How do these guys and ladies think when you go and approach them? What should be the best? What is the best approach?
Okay, for starters, if you talk financials, that is broad, because there's a couple of types of finance we have in South Africa. So now you need to be able to know which will be the right type of financier for your business. So I can just quickly, because that's the first point. You need to understand, what financial is suitable for you, so that you can plan accordingly. So just to give you a types of financial that that we have in South Africa, we'll start with the normal ones, the banks. They operate on the secured lending kind of space. So in that area, you want money, you bring something that will cover the amount that you're looking for, then you'll have the money. Of course, they will look at what business plan do you have, what experience and skills, and whether this thing can work. But the emphasis is more on secured. Is the money secured by property, by probably your investment that is lying somewhere, or your fixed deposit? If things go bad, they know that they can recover their money. So commercial banks basically operate in that space. Now you've got what is called risk financiers. So these are the guys that want to make a profit out of lending. So basically to them, the higher the risk, the higher the return. So if my money is unsecured, then I'll need a fair kind of return. So they can charge you up to 35% return, because they know that if this thing doesn't work, they stand to lose a lot. So however, I still have to find somebody who's really is not risk adverse, because I know some call themselves risk financiers, but until they see risk, they run. You've got what is called equity financiers. So these are the guys that see the potential in the business, and again, they're not willing to get any security from you. What they do is that we will put the money to the business with you, we will share the risk, and they will share the rewards. If the business fails, well, they will, it didn't work. So they will be at ease with that. If the business makes money, they also want to share in the, in the profit as well. So I would say those are the typical guys that you'll want to go into business with, because, they're taking, the journey with you. So they're not saying if the business doesn't work, then they want their money back. No, they take the risk. If it's gone, it's gone. Now we're starting to see now other financiers now coming in the space of bridging finance, invoice discounting. That is now they're trying to make money out of. If we've got a good client base, what they do is that they say whatever invoice they will buy, they will give you money upfront for the invoice that maybe you issued to a big client, so that you don't wait for long to get the money. So in the meantime, for your cash flow purposes, you need to have some cash that you can pay your overheads and salaries while you're waiting for the client to pay. But what they do, they work out a percentage of that. That okay, they will get a percentage of that invoice. So those, you do now get a lot of people working in that space. So we've got now again very important. They are called developmental finance institutions. These are mainly institutions like the NEF, the IDC, and the CIFA. So those are mainly funded by government. Now these are typically your ideal financiers, because they are a bit lenient when it comes to the criteria. So again, as we say, they are funded by government. So obviously they need to be seen as doing something in terms of assisting entrepreneurs. So those are the kind of financiers that now you find. So you need to be able now to know, based on your profile, out of those types of financiers I've mentioned, which one will typically meet your requirements. So, but now generally, as a financier, when a financier, you're approaching them with your business plan, what they think in their mind, basically, there's three things that they look in an application, in the proposal. The first thing they look at is you, the person coming to see them. They use the phrase the jockey like somebody who's riding a horse in a race. So they call it the jockey. We are the first point. So they must be happy with you. Obviously, they will look at what skills you have. They look at what experience in terms of work. and in terms of business, if there's any business, and then what's your personality? What type of person are you? You know? So based on those three, are you likely going to make this thing work? Because you can have the best idea, you can have the best concept or whatever, but if you are not the right person to run that business, I promise you, they're not going to assist you. So the first point is you as the jockey. They need to be happy with you. So if they're happy with you, because normally when you come to an interview, once you open, as you enter the door, the assessment has started. So they're looking at how you're presenting yourself, how you talk, whether you know what you're talking about, you know, and you confidence as well. So you need to create an impression as you walk in the door when you're meeting a financier, so that they feel comfortable with the person that they're going to be giving their money to. Viability of the business.
Is that number two?
Yes, that's number two. Now this one is a big one, because of course for an existing business you are able to more or less state your case because you've got a track record to show. But now it tends to become a very, very difficult now if you are a startup, because now what you need to convince the financier to put money in the business for something that, you know, he hasn't seen you doing it before. You just assuming that this will work, this will work. So I think what is more important there is the groundwork that you've done, because you need to convince them beyond reasonable doubt, if I can use that phrase, because remember, if the financier has doubt, viability is not conclusive, the safest way to say to him is to say no, because he cannot approve a loan where in doubt. He needs to be convinced beyond reasonable doubt that really this thing is going to work. So you need to do a whole lot of work when you do your groundwork, so that when you go and present your business plan, you've done your homework. So that one is very crucial. So you need to look at the market, who your clients will be, to identify. Because if you're not going to say, no, I'm targeting government departments, I'm targeting big companies, so there's no, you can't point who, because the question will say, if you say it's a big company, you should be able to name the company. Is it Coca-Cola? Is it ABSA? Is it what? So you need to have, there must be evidence that you've engaged those customers and they are willing to buy your product or your service. So hence we talk about letters of intent, which in a way are really not that, because somebody gave you a letter of intent and then after that he doesn't speak to you anymore. So it depends really on the financer in terms of what will give him that comfort that this thing is going to work. You wanted to say something?
Yeah. You said something about you need to put in or show the groundwork that you have done.
Yeah.
Has the process changed? Because I remember years ago, Umsobomvu, which is now NYDA, used to have the grant, or what do you call it, the voucher program, where business consultants would write a business plan for that entrepreneur. Has it changed? Do they now let entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs do the groundwork themselves?
Oh no,
before they
actually, thanks for highlighting that, because I think with the NYDA, it used to be Umsobomvu, now NYDA, they're trying to bring back that voucher program, because they put a stop on it some time ago, but they bring it back now. But SEDA as well, they do assist you if you want to get that done. Remember, a business plan is just now when you gathered all the information that is needed, now you're putting it in a business plan. And that's the business plan. But the groundwork itself is normally called feasibility study, but we normally associate feasibility studies with big projects. Even for a small business, you can do a feasibility studies. Just the extent of work will be smaller than when you do a big project. So you look at what will be your customers, what's the competition. You go to the area where you will be, your target market is. You start speaking to people whether they can. That's feasibility study. So all that information that you're collecting there then is going to be put into a business plan. So it might be a lot of work, but again, the likes of CEDAs and NYDAs are there to assist you into getting a professional to work with you on that.
All right, cool. And the third one?
Okay, the third one now. You've proved that you are the right person because of your skills, your experience, and your personality. You've proved that now this thing can work. You've done, feasibility studies and everything looks well and the numbers. Now the big one, financial risk. Financial risk. Remember, a business is not guaranteed.
Yeah.
Now, if you talk financial risk, now the financier is asking himself or herself that if this thing doesn't work, something happens that is not in the control of the entrepreneur, like maybe the big recession happens and then everything just goes the other direction. Now, should the business don't work, how much do I stand to lose? Then they have to decide whether they can stomach that loss or not. So those are the three main things. So if he doesn't stand to lose a lot, then there's possibly a chance that the application can be successful, provided that the other two are ticked. But if for high risk, for financial risk is mainly to say, if I invest R1 million, is there cover in this thing? How much is covered? Is it 100% or is it 50% or 25%? So that means the balance is not covered. Can I handle that loss? Then you can make a decision based on that. So those are the three main things that they look at.
Awesome, thank you very much. I really, there's a lot. I mean, you talk about financial risk and the groundwork that you put in point number 2. One of the biggest headaches for entrepreneurs, I've been there myself, is financial projections. And they say try and be realistic. I mean, the business hasn't started, I haven't made a cent, and I need to put 5 or 3 years projections. And no, how do you get around that?
Yeah, that's a big one. Because I told you, Musa, I was a financier before. I worked for business partners. Man, I've seen all kinds of projections, I promise you. And it's really a big challenge for people to do projections. But as I say, most of the projections are informed by the groundwork that you've done, that feasibility that you've done, that speaking to people, trying to estimate how much they can order per month in terms of quantities or service and things like that. All that information that you get now, you try and translate it into figures. So you have to, and for me, I always say to people, try and get somebody, a professional, to work with you, but don't let that person do the projections alone. No. It won't work, because you need to do them together, so that whatever you project, that you've checked among yourself and then thought it's a realistic kind of projection. Because sometimes these people, they just go and put on the figures there and then create projections that they think will impress the financier, and you meet a financier that knows this story, they will tell you upfront that, sorry, my friend, you have to go back and redo all this because they're unrealistic. So it's a big one, I know, and I've worked a lot with people trying to assist with doing projections. It takes time.
Cool. Let me wrap up the finance section just on that question. This will be my last question. On the point, actually, this will be my last question. A financer, potential funder, sending you back to go fix your projections because they're unrealistic. Have you lost a potential client? Can they still, have confidence in your business when you go back and fix and bring them back?
Okay. I'll be honest with you, Nay. if you approach me and I see this is the type of deal I want to do, I will tell you, I'll go with you and do the projections with you myself.
Okay.
So rest assured that if somebody send you back, that means he's not interested. Probably you'll think that you'll be discouraged and not come back.
Okay.
So if financiers are really want to do a deal, they go out of their way to assist you to get those projections done.
Kobani, thank you very much. That is the hazard, and I'm sure those listening, they will take that to heart. If the business or the financier sees an opportunity, they will bring you in and say, listen, come back next week, we'll sit down, have coffee or tea or spring water, whatever it is, and we'll go through this together. Then that means you nail them. But if they say, go away, go fix, it's a different story. So thank you very much. We look forward to hearing more tips. I think the other thing that I'd like to hear in the future, business insurance. We just had a case now where a substation, electrical substation blew up. Half a day's revenue lost. Who's responsible if you don't have business insurance? I think that's something that we can cover. Maybe yourself or Christoph in the future, we can look into that as well, especially for a small business owner. How critical is business insurance? But thank you very much.
Okay, all right.
All right, I think now let's bring back, actually not bring back, let's try and connect with Ntiki, see if she's on the line. Ntiki, hello.
Hi, Herman.
Hello. Welcome to the show.
Finally. Thank you very
All right, I'll
much for the welcome.
I'll keep quiet and hand over to you. But before we do that, just let's find out from Chris, because we've got a few minutes to go. Let's find out from Chris where we are in terms of the poll, and then you guys can carry on, because I know you're going to be chatting to him about a book. So let's hand over to Chris and over to you guys.
Yeah, we can quickly share the results of the poll. Quite simply, it seems that people on the call today believe that sponsorship of training, mentorship, and coaching by government is the best way to support small businesses, followed by the removal of red tape. So on the one hand, supporting people in making things happen, and on the other hand, removing the barriers. So that's quite an interesting result. Sure to take this discussion further. Interesting that no one really thought that ring fencing of tenders or making loans available are that important. But in any case, it's interesting, Tiki, that the way that we all have our opinions about things, carrying that into the future. So I just thought I'll share that before we jump into the book review.
Thanks for that, Christoph. I think it's very interesting. Another avenue we can explore in the future is, I think, people's understanding on how to get involved in tenders and the accessibility of that. I think if the process was simpler and if maybe more people understood it, that might be a potential avenue for some people. But that's a conversation we can have in the future. So tonight you have been reading Leadership and the 1 Minute Manager by Ken Blanchard. What have you found in this book? What can you tell us that our readers should really be inspired about and go out and read the book?
Yeah, I'm really a big fan of Ken Blanchard, not only for his work on leadership, but in general. In fact, he's part of writing a whole series of books called The 1 Minute Something. In this instance, the book that we reviewed this month in Small Business Connect is called Leadership and the 1 Minute Manager. Now, what he does, very interestingly in the book, he suggests that we should not be looking at being the same leader for everyone in our organization. So if I've got my own business, I may tend to follow advice that we often get to try to treat everyone the same. In fact, we often hear that people say, treat everyone the same and you will get the best results because everyone will trust each other and know where we're going. But what Blanchard says in this book, which is in fact already around for quite a while, he says this is not true. We need to adjust to people. We need to lead different people differently. So we can think of examples, of people in our organizations, in our businesses, who may need different kind of support in getting something done. And
True,
he's
and
got an
that
interesting way of explaining that to us.
True, that does make sense because if I think about different people, I would suppose that different people respond differently to various performance management strategies. So somebody might be reward orientated, somebody else might be passion driven, and so forth. So that would definitely change and drive different kinds of behavior as a leader and how you engage with different staff. True.
Yes, that's exactly what he's saying. So, but he goes a bit further too. He says, in different situations, you may find that you need to offer different kinds of leadership to the same people. So, sort of someone might in one situation need a very directive support, while in another situation you can leave them to actually go and do what they best at doing, and they will probably get better results when you get out of the way. So he talks about two elements, and I'm not sure if you can see on the screen share there. I've shared a
Supportive
a
behavior and directive behavior.
yes, yes.
Mm.
So this is what he's talking about in the book, of course, in much more kind of elaborate words than this graph. But he says we've got a choice in terms of combining directive behavior and supportive behavior. So either if both supportive and directive behavior as a leader is low, then you're in the bottom left quadrant. And then, of course, combination of those two gives you the other three opportunities that you have in terms of your leadership. So if we start off on the right bottom, supportive low and directive high, we'll see that that's kind of the situation where someone is perhaps not dealing very well with the situation. They need very much to be directive and very little support. It's kind of like supervising someone. Sort of you give them instructions and they must go and do it. And for some people that's necessary. Sort of. But in many situations you can step back a bit on in fact, you can keep being directive, but also be a bit more supportive. Sort of a bit like a mentor. Sort of someone telling you how to do things, but letting you to go and do it, as opposed to looking over your shoulder in getting things done. So as a leader, you need to understand when you need to step back from just giving people direction and letting them actually to do things too. But that cannot be enough. Sort of in some instances, especially when people are competent, they would also appreciate you to leave them alone a bit. Don't tell them how to do it. Let them find the right way to do it, and that's more like a coaching support. But eventually, he says, where you want to go to is you want to reduce both supportive and directive behavior as a leader, so that people can be self-sufficient in what they do. So, of course, in the book, it's much more elaborate and nicer to read, and I really recommend people to read the book. It's a nice short read. It's not a big book, but you really get a lot of value out of that in understanding how to work with people and get the most out of them.
Okay, Christoph, let me ask you this. The title is Leadership and the 1 Minute Manager. Does that then go to say just because you're a leader, it doesn't mean you can manage people, and just because you're a manager, it doesn't mean you're a leader?
No. In a lot of instances, I suppose we find ourselves in the position as a manager, whether we're selected to do that or not. So if we run our own businesses, of course, we're forced into that, and sometimes we're forced into doing the role of a manager, while in fact it's not something that we thought we would be doing when we started off. Sort of typically someone that loves what they do and they start their own business in doing what they love, soon find that they do a lot of other stuff, more the management stuff. So we often get thrust into being a manager. But if we understand when we work with people, with other people, sort of our staff and so on, even with customers, sort of that a different style for a different person is sometimes necessary, and to be aware that people have different needs. So not to try to be the same leader for everyone, but understand where they come and how the best would come about from the approach that you take to them.
And that's obviously learned behavior, and you'll probably get better at doing that as time goes and as you understand the people that work for you and so forth. Just to find out, in terms of entrepreneurs, especially young entrepreneurs, I find that sometimes as you start out as young people that have the similar interests and want to go into the same field, you might approach it with the self-sufficient structure first, because I don't really want to be looking over my peers to see if they are doing what they're meant to be doing. And we sort of have that structure where we trust each other. Do you think that's a better way to start out in business as young entrepreneurs, or is it always necessary to follow the cycle?
Well, what I've learned, in fact, is that we learn most from experience. So to start off as a young entrepreneur is rather difficult. So if you come out of university or Technikon or somewhere and you try to set up a business, you really have to be brave. It's in fact much easier to first go and work somewhere else and learn from how other business works in terms of how things happen. So young entrepreneurs are really, I admire what people achieve out there, not having the opportunity to first learn by working somewhere else. It is really it's a big challenge. But we've got help, sort of reading a book like Leadership and the 1 Minute Manager can help if you are willing to explore ways that you can develop yourself. So it starts off with yourself, and the question that you have to ask yourself is, am I willing to be challenged on the way that I do things? And if I say yes to that, then I can use a book like this or any other advice or a coaching or mentorship relationship with someone to improve myself so that I can run a better business.
Okay, that sounds good. And this book is applicable for entrepreneurs as well as people in managerial positions in the office, or even people who think they might want to move up the ranks and become a manager and learn how to be a better leader. And for those of you that don't really like to read so much, Christoph has reassured us that it's not a long read. So do take the time to read Leadership and the 1 Minute Manager by Ken Blanchard. Christopher, is there a write-up available on this book?
Yes, it will be on the website soon.
Okay.
I think by next week it will be on the website. So keep an eye on the smallbusinessconnect.co.za website. It will appear there, or it will also lead to that. A link to that will appear on our Facebook page and so on. But of course, there are other people that have written about this, and if you just Google Leadership and the 1 Minute Manager, you probably find advice on that too. That's the wonderful world that we live in today. Is if you go onto YouTube and you search Ken Blanchard, you'll find video clips where he talks about this very eloquently, more eloquently than I can do it now.
Sure. All right, thank you so much for that, Christoph. Before I let you go, I want to find out, you've been doing this for a very long time, and you often work with a number of different people from various stakeholders. What did you learn most from this book? Were there new lessons in it, or was it things that were reiterated?
So I work apart from being a publisher, I also work as a business coach, entrepreneurial coach, and the trick in supporting people in my industry is to understand what the support is that people need. And the biggest mistake that I've made in supporting entrepreneurs is to misunderstand this combination of supportive and directive behavior that I need to adopt. So should I be more of a mentor or should I be more of a coach is always the question. And where things really go wrong in my relationship with the client is where I make the wrong choice. I come out too strong, and so this is the way that it should be. While the person is in fact beyond that, or alternatively, I keep asking vague questions like a coach would. While in fact, what the person needed was just someone to say, "Listen, this is the way to do it. Go do it." So that, you can use this in different contexts. This kind of framework of understanding leadership.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you so much, Christoph. I really appreciate that review, and that's definitely the next read I'm going to pick up. And those of you that are interested, do stay tuned and go check out the Small Business Connect website, and the write-up will be available on that. I'm going to bring back Herman. Are you with us?
Yes, Ntiki, I'm still here. Interesting stuff.
All right, fantastic.
Sorry about that. Yeah, thank you very much there, Christoph, for that insightful review of the book. I think it's one, as Ntiki said, one that it's got to be in the bookshelf. And after you read it, of course, you put it up on the bookshelf and you keep going back to it. Not just get it and put it up on the bookshelf to make your office look prettier. But Ntiki, thank you very much it's nice actually having you on the show, having a on the show. Very lovely.
Thank you very much.
We're about to wrap up. Christoph did share about on the poll that we ran last week and also earlier on tonight as well. Maybe let me do a wrap up around with Kobani as well as Christoph, and I'll hand over to you to close the show tonight.
All right, no problem.
Christoph, your final words before we say goodbye?
Good. Sorry, I misunderstood you there. Yeah, we need to be respectful of people's time, of course, and we're already beyond the hour. We want to keep this forum growing. So please stay in touch. Sort of if you tune in this time, you'll have to register again each time. Unfortunately, that's the way that it is. But you'll get a reminder if you registered once. There will be an email in your inbox saying, please remember, sort of for our next show, you have to just click there to get the link to sign in again. And we keep developing this into a discussion that benefits us as small businesses, as owners of our own destiny, and the development of us as people who are leaders in our businesses, so that we can have success and achieve with our businesses that we think is possible. And I'm really looking forward to that going into the future. And this is, in fact, the whole ethos behind Small Business Connect, is that we provide entrepreneurs with useful information that they can grow their businesses.
Awesome. Thanks there, Christoph. Kobani, final words from your side before we say good night?
Okay, what I can say for me, I think it was, I think this is a platform is a good idea, and I probably would love to see what, suggestions also coming to people of topics or issues that we maybe need to talk about. I don't know if maybe we can also invite a few, maybe that that have some questions, and then we answer questions live. I don't know, something like that, so that we can just improve on what we have, and also have some kind of engagement with people. But I think it's a good platform, because sometimes it's difficult to get people or experts who can give you advice on certain issues and free of charge, except for obviously you have to pay for your internet connection. But sometimes you have to deal with consultants who know you have to pay something for the time that they will spend in talking with you or giving advice. But if you use this platform, one can get information free of charge, as I say. But for me, I think, it's the second show, but I think as we go on, it becomes much more better as we start getting used to this technology. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. As I always say, I'm very grateful and honored to be involved in this, and also share your and Christoph's sentiments. Let's use the platform to build South Africa and encourage one another in getting entrepreneurship to the levels that we want and we wish for this country. Nziki, thank you very much, and I'll leave it up to you to close the show tonight.
Thank you very much, Herman. I appreciate you completely. I'm just holding them the show in my absence, and you do it so well. I think people can tell you're a professional at this. I'm definitely looking forward to hosting more shows together and really finding out what entrepreneurs out there have to say. Just to mention, during the week, the University of Johannesburg Center for Social Entrepreneurship and Social Economy hosted a conference, which was very interesting to actually find out how people view the two different spaces. So topics like that would be fun to engage and really see what's going on in that space, as well as the Gauteng province has a lot of different chambers coming out around social entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship in general. So if we can explore those and share those opportunities with people and find out what everybody's thinking, I think this platform can really do great things and go a long way in reaching many different people. So do stay tuned. Keep following Small Business Connect on Twitter, on Facebook. Do go look at the website. get the monthly issue that comes out. Thank you so much to everybody for taking the time out to join us. And thank you so much to the panel, Christoph, Kubani, Herman, and Nabila. I really appreciate it. And until our next chat next month, make sure you sign up again, which is unfortunate, but it's really great. Thank you so much for coming back. Have a great night and be blessed.